This podcast could potentially have adult language, adult themes, definitely drinking, and possibly the possibility of sexual content. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Drinking with Authors. I'm your host, Erica Lance. My amazing co-host today is the always beautifully colored Bo Lake.
I love it, by the way.
There's purple now. It's not just blue, it's purple.
Yeah.
So for those not watching, fancy. And our guest today is the incomparable AJ Super. Welcome.
Thank you. Incomparable, really.
We're going to go with that for now. We'll see by the end of this whether or not I change my mind on. No, just kidding. Oh my God, that's terrible. Okay, let's talk about what we're drinking. So I am drinking whiskey, and I've got this thing. I almost put gin in it, and then I actually read the label. So Fever Tree has a new blood orange ginger beer.
Ooh.
So I didn't realize it was ginger beer. I was like, blood orange. I thought it was just, blood orange. I was going to put gin in it, but I put whiskey in it, and it's in my Down the Rabbit Hole Alice in Wonderland. I think this is supposed to be a Scotch glass, but I don't give a fuck. Anyway, that's what I'm drinking, and some lime ginger Nixie water to balance it out, because one must be balanced. But what are you drinking, my friend?
God, do you think Nixie Water would give us a sponsorship by now with all the Nixie water you're drinking?
Oh, there's so many people that should be sponsored.
Well, I think we should be sponsored by Starbucks, because I always have a Starbucks on this podcast. So today it's a dirty chai.
See, the dirty chai.
It's so good.
I'm so glad I got onto this. Okay.
So what exactly makes it dirty?
There's
They throw a shot of
espresso in
espresso.
it. It's so good.
I think my husband is a really big fan of chai, and that's like his drink from Starbucks. So that sounds really yummy.
Just say
need to
make it
introduce them to
dirty
the
and
dirty
they will.
chai. And if you want to do a naughty chai, you then I came up with the naughty chai. So I will, in an iced one, you can put cold brew in it. So cold brew chai. Yeah, because you can buy that chai mix from Target, I think, like the Tazo chai mix. So I do cold brew, Kahlua, Bailey's, and then the chai mix, and that's a dirty naughty chai.
Dirty naughty chai.
I'll level up these things like nobody's business. It's crazy. So,
Okay.
what are you drinking, AJ?
Yeah, I was going to say my turn. Well,
Yeah.
I have a choice between two drinks because I have friends that make book tales. They're cocktails themed for the book, and generally they kind of match the cover a little bit. So there's this one and this one.
Well, we need to be introduced to these people. Book tales. I wonder what kind of cocktail I'd get out of my books.
And this one and this one.
Oh, wow. So what is this? What is in both of these cocktails?
Okay, so the orange one is a mezcal Negroni.
Okay.
It has sweet vermouth, one part Campari, and 2 parts mezcal with a dash of bitters and an orange peel to
Make you fancy.
fancy.
I like it.
And then this one I don't have a name for because it was created specifically by a friend for my second book, A Star Reborn, and it's Laird's apple brandy, Campari, and a splash of bitters with blue ice cubes made out of pea flower tea.
You are
I wanna
like
try that
level
one.
up. You got to send me these drink recipes so I can post them with the stuff on the episode.
I will.
Yeah, but
Definitely.
I think you should call that the Being Reborn, because that's ridiculous.
That's in, and it's so good. I have a love of Chambord now that is just unparalleled. Like I will pair it with everything.
I did that for a while. I over Chamborded myself. I'm going to be honest. Because I was drinking it straight for a while on the rocks, because it gets it tastes kind of like blueberries. Like
It's isn't it a blackberry liqueur or something?
yeah,
like
it's blackberry, but yeah, like it's a berry. So it's actually really good. It's just really sweet. It's kind of like if you overdo Southern Comfort, because Southern Comfort is really, really sweet. And I think a lot of us in our teenage years have a SoCal story.
Yes. my
Hashtag can't
SoCal
drink that
story.
anymore. Thank you very much. I
Yeah,
just smell Southern Comfort and I'm like, oh, now I'm being transported in time. What the hell's happening? And not in a good way.
yeah.
No, it's crazy. Okay. So, God, we're getting distracted by drinks, but that is super exciting. I want to meet the people who come up with drinks for stuff because I will send them many books to come up with.
I will definitely email you contact information.
Please do, because I'd absolutely love that. The show's themed around it. So for those in the audience that may not know you, what do you write?
I write science fiction, specifically space opera, and that's what my trilogy is. And right now, I only have the 2 books out, but hopefully, crossing my fingers, by the end of this year, my 3rd book will be out. And if not, it'll be the beginning of 2024.
Very cool. Very cool. When did you start this madness?
These particular books started in 2019. Okay. I started writing full time in 2014.
Wow.
And I have a couple of books trunked. That's just kind of what happens. But I've gone back and edited my favorite one, and it's out on I'm querying it right now to see if I can't get an agent. But I've also sent it to a couple of small publishing houses that I really like, some independent publishers. And I'm crossing my fingers that somebody likes it.
So when you say you were writing, what were you writing full time in 2014 then?
A book called Beneath Green and another book called Viridescence.
Okay.
Those are the trunked books. They'll probably get title changes eventually.
Okay.
So we'll see. But in 2019, I came up with this idea about a space pirate who also has AI in her DNA that gets activated. So she becomes like a human AI hybrid. And it's the whole trilogy is a villain origin to redemption story. But it's about family and identity and to some extent religion and what's the word I'm looking for? I haven't even had a drink yet, and I
was gonna say, are you picking up on my drinking vibe? Because look, I'm halfway done. It's fine.
Oh, here, let me have a drink
Cheers.
of Mezcal Negroni.
Oh my goodness. If you guys are listening and you haven't seen this video, you guys have to watch this video because those drinks are beautiful. So, well, AJ's entire background is beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
yeah, I was debating whether or not to do like an actual background or just like show off stuff.
No, I'm glad you showed off stuff. The reason Bo's background is blurred is because she is not going to show off what's behind there.
No, it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah,
Yes.
Normally that's what I do is just blur my background. I did recently do a panel for a conference called Right Hive, where they made a background for me. And that's like the first time I've ever used a background in my Zoom life. And I've been doing Zoom since COVID in 2020. So
I used to do, not for this podcast because lazy, mainly. I used to do a lot of backgrounds at my job to be funny. Like I do like Death Star backgrounds and stuff when just because I worked in HR, I had to lighten the mood. So like when I said, hey, I want to talk to you, instantly the person thought they were in trouble or being fired. It was never the case because I didn't ever actually fire people. So when I say I want to talk to you, I was always like, I don't know why you think you're being fired by me. I don't do the firing. Now, if this person reaches out to you, you should pack your shit. Like,
HR is still like going to the principal's office.
It is, and it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Well, I take that back. Some places it absolutely should be. I was
You
not
can
that
be
way.
you can be a little scary, Erica. Like you're
I've
intimidating.
heard that. I've heard that I can be very intimidating, which is very funny to me because if you get to know me at all, Bo, you have to admit, getting to know me now, you kind of go, why
Yeah,
the hell would
yeah.
anybody be intimidated by her? Because I'm like a child. But okay, we're getting sidetracked. Back to your books. So what made so many questions at the same time. Your first books, how were they published?
These are my first published books. Most writers write a couple of books before they get picked up by an agent or a publisher and have books like in their back pocket.
I wasn't sure if those
Later.
first two books you talked about, if you self-published them.
I was actually thinking about it if I don't get interest from independent publishers. There's one that needs a lot of rewrites, but Beneath Green, it's about an alien girl during an invasion by humans,
Oh, wow.
and it's her story of survival.
I like that. No, that
And
sounds pretty.
yeah,
So
it's a lot of fun, and it's really the book of my heart. But these books I had so much fun writing these books.
so how are those published?
Athon Books, a traditional small publisher, picked me up in 2019. Actually, end of 2019, because I started writing these in the end of 2018, like Christmas time.
Okay.
And it was really crazy because I had a couple of other publishers that were interested too, small publishers, nothing like spectacular.
Okay.
Athon really gave me a family vibe, and they have walked me through everything. They answer questions. And so I decided to go with them, even though they wanted me to cut 10,000 words and rewrite the entire first act.
Ugh, that
So
sounds hard.
Oh,
it was
you're causing me my blackout rage right now because as a
We hate that.
publisher,
We hate that.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Because I think, it's one thing if you are not a strong writer and it's somebody who's taking a real big gamble and is like, hey, we need to tighten up this, blah, blah, blah. But if you're a strong writer and they go, hey, we need to do this, I kind of go, hey, no, you don't get to rewrite that author's story.
The thing is once the problems were pointed out to me, I was like, why hasn't anybody seen this until now? I was like, this is absolutely spot on. This is why my book hasn't gotten any traction until now. And these people see my vision.
Well, then that's good. I just so against rewriting stuff because I think a lot of times it changes stories. I mean, I guess you have a really good experience, which is kind of awesome because not everybody has that experience, but yeah.
And I know people with my publisher who didn't have great experiences, but they have been nothing but amazing for me. Come like 2021, I started getting COVID, I got really sick, then I had some family issues, and I couldn't get the third book done when they wanted it done. And they have given me so much grace.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so I adore the people at Athon Books. They have been amazing. They've given me what I need as a beginning writer.
And that's amazing. And I'm super excited for you that that's the case, because again, that is not always the case.
No, it's not. And I know people with big publishers who have had really, really rough times.
Well, I think one of the biggest things in the publishing world, which is something we want to change, right? As a publisher and also just as an author and as somebody who's in the publishing world, podcast wise and stuff like that, we have to change this narrative that authors should feel anything less than a creative as part of their process. And yes, you become a business. So if you go into this thinking you're going to find a publisher that's going to do all your advertising, all this other stuff, that is not the case. But if you understand that, you should find a publisher that takes your work and loves your work for what it was, and maybe nudges you a little bit in some directions, meaning like, hey, this sentence ended and it didn't end the paragraph, or your character disappeared from page 1 to page 3. What the hell are you doing with that? Little things that as authors we don't see, because the story's on the page as we see it in our brain and not actually what's written. We're really good about like, oh, we're missing that entire, okay, cool. But I think when I hear that people want to change stories, or, hey, we love this story, can you change your protagonist from a female to a male? And you're like, no,
that changes the whole storyline. And
Yeah.
to be honest, my first editor with Athon changed an entire character.
Oh,
And it was like secondary developmental edits. So it was it was supposed to be more, you know, line edits and little things like finding plot holes and things like that. Not changing a character. Like he changed a dishwater blonde to a redhead. And
wow.
it was like, how did I don't know how you got, because I'm very explicit when I describe my characters, like most authors are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how he got a redhead out of this, and he like cut a whole character. And I was like, no, I need to have that character because I plan on bringing that character in book 3 in a very important way. So
yeah, no, yeah, that's the other thing, is just because somebody is an editor doesn't mean they're the best at everything they do.
yeah, the editor I have now is amazing. Like she has guided me through like all sorts of little plot hole problems. She catches my repetitive word use and phrase use, which all authors have that. Piccadilly,
Oh yeah.
peccadillo, something like that. Is it peccadillo?
I don't even, you're asking
I
me
think
the
so. I
actual
think so. That
person.
sounds right to me.
It sounds
I don't
right.
know. Mine is realized. Everybody realizes things. So
Yeah.
they realize this. Now when I go to type that word, there is like a shock button in my brain.
It's like nobody realizes things, Erica.
Goes the right word. So
Yeah. You froze a little that time.
oh, I
Yeah,
was
you
right.
did.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Welcome to the internet in the mountains.
Yeah, I'm very lucky that that we have a really good internet here, even though we're in the mountains in Idaho. So
No, that is fantastic. I'm jealous. My internet is good at times, and then other times like this, it goes, hey, like I can go an entire time, no problem. Then all of a sudden it'll be like, just kidding, just to remind you, you're in the mountains and this is your internet. Hello.
you know what?
It's always
in-laws-
so we're recording too. It'll stop working. It works fine all day, and then we turn the record button on. Doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, my in-laws, they used to live out a canyon that's like literally 5 minutes away from town and had absolutely no internet whatsoever. They had to use hotspots from their cell phones, and the cell phone coverage was so
You get to admire your DVD collection at that point in time.
they had a very, very large DVD collection.
I have to say, honestly, with all the streaming services, I find a ton of movies I haven't seen in like forever, which is great, right? But
Mhm.
like I found, we're getting so off topic. Welcome to the show. The movie Dogma by Kevin Smith.
I love that movie.
I love that movie. Did you try looking it up on streaming? It's not. Why?
It's not there.
Because the guy who went to jail, Harvey Weinstein, who owns that movie, won't let it get released. So there's even no new DVDs. If you try to go buy the DVD for Dogma, it's like $50.
Yep.
I'm very happy I have a DVD of Dogma.
I think we do too.
Yeah.
We have a fairly extensive library of DVDs that we actually had to cull a little bit when we moved back to Idaho from Kansas. And I think we have Dogma because it was one of those that we couldn't, replace or stream or, yeah, but our DVD collection is like mostly horror because, yeah, I love
No, no, mine is that and rom-coms. Because I like my guilty rom-com and teenage movies. I have every John Hughes movie. But I will say for those listening, before you get excited and go, I can get rid of my DVDs. I have all these streaming or I haven't touched them. Look up to see if those movies are actually available anymore. Because
Yeah.
some of them just are not available. And it was very weird to find that out on that particular movie.
Yeah. I'm gonna go check after this, by the
Yeah.
way.
AJ goes
gotta
running
go check
around. Like, what
Dogma.
are you doing? She's like, I was on a podcast. I have to check her DVDs immediately. I want to know how many people have paused this podcast to go look at their DVD collection. But
You're like, oh God, is Dogma still here?
it's
You
Dogma
know what?
still here.
I still have like hundreds of CDs. I don't need them because they're all on like Spotify. Excuse me. But I still have them.
I have them in big
Why?
books now with the zippers. I
Exactly.
transferred all the DVDs, actually not Dogma for some reason. I have a stack that I didn't put in cases yet, but I moved all my DVDs and stuff like that to little books. I realized because we moved up to the mountains, and besides looking for movies like Dogma and stuff, there's been like a handful that I couldn't find online. And so I went looking for the DVD, but I haven't touched those besides very specific, like I want to watch this and then having to go find it. I have not touched those. Plus, I can't bring myself to buy a movie if I know I already have the movie. Like I have it, I can't go bring myself to buy it. So I was, it sucks. But
You know what? I have been on an anime kick lately.
oh,
Like,
really?
yeah, on Hulu of all places. But there's this one that I'm watching right now. I just finished watching Fruits Basket, which is like simultaneously heartbreaking and uplifting. And, if you've watched it, you totally know.
I have not.
It's amazing. It's about the Japanese zodiac.
Oh,
And this girl who breaks the curse, basically, of the Japanese zodiac.
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's really, really great. And it's a slice of life thing with a spec fic kind of bent. And it's really, it's totally worth watching if you can manage to watch it on Hulu. Since, your internet is.
Yeah. Well, no, because like literally most of the time, ironically, it's totally fine. It just happens to be not at this time, but it's fine. It's fine.
Anyway,
yes, I'll have
so
to look
the one
into
I'm
that.
watching right now is called Spy X Family, and it's about a spy who has a mission that requires a family, and he goes to a not an adoption agency, but a
Orphanage.
Thank you. And he picks up this girl who is clearly not the age she says she is. And she's also telepathic. So she knows everything about his secret that he's keeping, that he's a spy. And then eventually he picks up a wife, and it's a fake-ish relationship. I think that it'll probably end up being less than fake in the end, because that's the trope, right? And she is an assassin. And the little girl knows because she can read everybody's minds.
Oh, wow.
And it's like this throwback to the 50s, 60s kind of spy versus spy kind of thing. And it's just so much fun. Like, it doesn't take itself seriously. And at the same time, there's really kind of quite high stakes because it's the piece of the world that these people are all fighting for.
Oh, wow.
it's amazing. I love it. Like it's definitely up there with Fruits Basket in my opinion. So
One of our co-hosts, Valerie, has been watching that. She's been telling me about it.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
No, I part of my problem sometimes is the noise the characters make. I can't. Some of the voices I can't do.
The squealing and the yelling.
Yeah.
My husband has a problem with that as well. And if you don't like that, you probably won't like Fruits Basket.
It's hard because I love the stories. It's just the certain voices. And this is true with some cartoons too. Like it's not just those kind of cartoons. It's also like US based cartoons and stuff. The voices sometimes I'm like, oh, this is terrible. So
no, there's a lot of screeching in the first season of Fruits Basket with the cat.
Okay, so no, I'm gonna hard pass on that.
So that's probably not for you.
No, I would say no. Okay, well, we're gonna ask a question before we have to go to break since we get so sidetracked here. It's like squirrel. Who would you cast as the lead characters in your book?
Oh, you know what? I always forget her name. There is this actress called, her name is Jamie. I don't remember her last name.
Trying to think of all the Jamies.
Yeah, she was in I'm trying to Google a little bit, but I am totally losing this is what happens when you drink, by the way, your brain freezes.
Is she young or
and I have
old?
words. She's younger. She has short brown hair. So Jamie, and I said actor instead of actress in my search.
Jamie Presley, Jamie Chung.
And you know who came up is like when I said short brown hair actress, for best celebrity haircuts of all time is the girl that played Padme. But she's not right.
Natalie Portman?
Yeah, Natalie Portman. Oh, there we go. Jamie Alexander. Jamie Alexander.
Oh. What was she in?
Let me look.
I love this.
such good podcast. She was in Blind Spot and the last
yes, Blind Spot. That's the big one.
And Kyle XY apparently back in the day.
Way back.
Oh, and Thor: The Dark World. Yep. She was in things.
She is in things. But I love her look.
This entire conversation that's happening.
I love IMDbing things. My husband hates it because we're watching a movie and I'm like looking up the trivia for the movie and I'm like, did you know? And he's like, can you just focus for 5 minutes? I'm like, no, but did you know this?
Do you happen to have ADHD? Just out of curiosity.
I don't.
Because that's totally something that my husband does because of his ADHD. He is absolutely obsessed with movie trivia.
I love movie trivia.
So like, and
I always have a little fact for every movie.
Oh my gosh.
But Bo, she got herself a beer.
I did.
I did. What beer did you get, Bo?
Oh, my, as always, tried and true Blue Moon, because it's my favorite beer. That's what I got.
Yes, because it also usually matches your hair, right?
It usually does. I mean, I gotta find a purpley pink beer now.
Purpley
that I match.
Beer.
Yeah, because I used to match perfectly with the Blue Moon bottle.
That's true. That's very true.
Purple pink beer can. There's something called Purple Haze.
Oh, yes.
And it's totally like got the 70s like font and everything.
I'm gonna get it for next time, next episode.
Yes. What was my question? Oh my gosh.
I have a question.
Okay.
If we steer back to books,
Whatever.
what got you into what got you into sci-fi?
Oh my goodness. My grandma got me into sci-fi. I started reading sci-fi and fantasy when I was like knee-high to a grasshopper. And it's all because of my grandma, my mom's mom, Bobby. And she was a science fiction fan and a fantasy fan. So I read Mercedes Lackey, Ursula Le Guin, who else? Oh, Octavia Butler at like a very young age. Like I was barely a teenager and I was reading that stuff. And it was just amazing. I love it. Oh, Anne McCaffrey too.
Ooh, I love Anne McCaffrey.
Yeah, and I absolutely adore those authors. And that's kind of what started me on my sci-fi journey. I am a big Star Wars fan, and if you saw the surroundings right now, like in front of me, I have like those 8-inch Star Wars dolls, like some Leia's and a storm. It's just actually a snow trooper to be specific.
Oh, from Hoth.
And some like Hoth costume main characters like Leia and Han, and then I have a signed Lando Calrissian.
Ooh, Billy D. Williams.
Yes. I got to see him at a very small con in I'll have to ask my husband, but it was in a small town in Kansas that considers themselves the land of Dorothy and Oz. So I like, they consider themselves the origin of that story, and it's really, really cool. But it was like the smallest con ever. And Billy D. Williams and the lady on Arrow that plays the daughter of Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about, but I don't remember her name.
Yeah. She was there, and it was just a really interesting time. Like I hadn't quite discovered that I was queer yet. And I had this really bizarre conversation with the lady that played Ra's al Ghul's daughter about being alternatively lifestyled and alternatively sexed, because yay, Kansas. And I didn't understand what I was talking about or who I was or anything like that. So if she remembers me, it's because of that. Very problematic conversation.
I love that. I think that makes it fun.
Well, it was very interesting, because also I didn't realize that Billy D. Williams is Jewish. And he was
wearing, know that?
Yeah, he was wearing a Jewish symbol on his necklace, and I asked him what it was about, and my husband, who is Jewish, or at least his family was like, well, I know what that is. Why don't you know what that is? Like, white, Catholic, repressed.
Wow.
And it was just a really interesting con. Like, just,
it's always funny when you go to those kind of cons where it's like very, very like middle America, because Eric and I went to Ohio for a con, and it was so weird selling like smutty romance books to people in Ohio, because there's like rules about what you can and can't sell, and we'd be like, you want to see some books? Like, what are you looking for?
I went to AWP in 2020, in March of 2020, just before everything shut down. And we had a couple authors. We had a no sale kind of, we couldn't sell things booth. And we had some authors going, hey, do you want to buy my book? And they would totally did it just under the table. So,
Well,
but
we found these cute little Post-its that look like t-shirts now to put over
Yeah.
because they you couldn't show a man's chest, which for the record, Ohio, this is just ridiculous. But you couldn't, and it wasn't like nobody's naked on the covers of the books, right? Like you can't, Amazon won't allow nakedness on the covers. Barnes and Noble, like you can't be
Or
naked.
like this, like just shirtless.
dude,
Nothing.
We
He's
had
wearing
to put a shirt
pants.
on them. It's blurry. Stop being blurry.
Oh, I can't help it. Put
it in front of your face and shove it in the camera. There we go.
See, he's shirtless, but he's wearing pants.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can see his Apollo's kind of
Yeah,
whatever you
but he's dressed enough to go outside in public, so he should be allowed to be in a
yeah, he could go gardening.
Yeah, but no, we had to put a shirt on him.
Yeah, we had to put a shirt on him.
That is so weird.
It is, but
Like I live in Idaho, and Ohio is generally more progressive than Idaho, and Idaho doesn't do that.
Not when it comes to shirtless dudes.
No, apparently not. That's so weird.
no, it's just it's interesting because I think there are so many laws on the books that nobody actually brings up and goes, hey, we probably need to change this. This is dumb, right? But alas, they had that. What's really funny
The
is
shirt
that
Post-its were cute though, so it's fine.
yeah, the shirt Post-its, and then we just put, are you 18? Ask me what's under my shirt, like we've made a lot of
That is absolutely amazing and totally adorable, and I would be there for that.
Yeah, no, a lot of people laughed and picked up the books because it had really funny things like about what you could and couldn't say. So, whatever. I think anything having to do with trying to censor books, which is a whole topic in this country, is just a bit ridiculous at this moment.
Especially right now. Like
Yeah.
it's such a hot topic. It's so like divided even in the author circles, because you have the legacy what's the word? It starts with an E. The people who own like really, really old books, their things. I have finished a drink. I am sorry.
I appreciate everything that is happening on this podcast right now.
but the thing is you have these people changing actual text in a book.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to doing something like a content warning or something like that. And
I think it's really smart, from a publishing standpoint, I think it's very smart for authors to put trigger warnings now on books. And not, I don't think a trigger warning is not that this is an LGBT book. For instance, a trigger warning is the book contains a rape scene or a molestation or violence or abortion. Like you can talk about the things that are legitimate. You kill a dog, put that on your book if you kill a dog, because man, you'll end up on a website for killing a dog. Yeah.
Never.
I know, but people do kill dogs in books. And when they do, there's a website that is literally dedicated to listing movies and books that kill dogs.
Oh, it's called isthedogdead.com.
Oh, wow.
Which it's fine. There's an audience of people, you can't kill the dog. It's worse than killing children in books.
Yeah. I have a trigger warning for Erebus in which a kitten gets threatened. But my
how dare you threaten a kitten? How dare you?
Right? Everybody hated the character that threatened the kitten. It's awesome. The kitten lives. The kitten ends up being immortal and forever a kitten, which is awesome because who doesn't want an immortal kitten?
True.
But at the same time, it's really, really heart-wrenching to watch this terrible character like grab the kitten and smash it into a table and say, you have to do this to make this kitten live because we're running a test and I want to see the results.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
And
that's the thing, is that sometimes there are things that are said because they're communicating part of the story or where the character's coming from, but I don't think they should be censored. You should be warned. So if you don't want to read a book where a kitten gets threatened, then you know not to read this book because a kitten gets threatened. Like, I'm
yeah,
down for that.
and unfortunately, my publisher doesn't do trigger warnings, but that's the biggest one, is a threatened kitten. Like,
Well, if your publisher listens to this, word of advice from another publisher, do trigger warnings.
yeah,
Because
they
you
do
get
a
a lot
lot of,
less flack from the audience when you do trigger warnings.
yeah, they do
You don't get review bombed.
no, and the other thing is they do a lot of lit RPG stuff and game lit, which is kind of a new up and coming kind of thing, and they're making a lot of money doing it, but their audience isn't my audience.
Right.
Yeah, no.
My audience wants the trigger warning.
That a lot of audiences want the trigger warning. A lot of them it's okay, but most of them want the trigger warning, even on normal stuff now, because I actually think it's a sign that mental health is starting to be taken more seriously.
Yeah.
And people are acknowledging that there's an issue. I mean, this is a whole layer upon a layer here that with my whiskey that I'm coming to. But
I've seen readers look at a trigger warning and they go, oh, I'll definitely like this book. Like they use it as like a gauge of whether they'll like it too, like if it has a thing in it. So trigger warnings are good in multiple ways.
Agreed.
It can kind of be like a this is what's coming up, are you interested? And people be like, yes.
Yeah, and you know what? In my query for Beneath Green, the book that I wrote very first in 2014, and I'm submitting to agents and small publishers right now, I actually put content warnings in my query. Like, I have learned so much from publishing these books, and I want to be better, right? I want to make my audience respect me, make them respect me. I want my audience to respect me. And I want them to be comfortable reading what I've written.
And
So,
I think that's brilliant though. It's I don't know, it's the right way to look at.
I'm drinking the blue drink now. Blue
I
slash
appreciate the
purple.
blue drink. I want to know if that's going to stain your tongue at all. That is.
It doesn't, but the ice cubes, the pea flower tea, it will stain. Like
What
I
do
have,
you?
I
Oh,
have,
you know who has pea flower tea in a drink now is First Watch. It's one of their breakfast drinks. You can get pea flower tea.
oh,
Mm.
yeah, it doesn't really taste like much.
No, it's with other things at their thing too. But I just thought that was kind of amazing. Pea flower tea.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for dyeing drinks blue. And I can get this really deep blue because I steeped it for like, I don't know, like a good couple hours. And then I had my husband throw it in ice cubes last night. And so now I have like little blue ice cubes in my purple drink because Chambord is purple.
Yes.
So
Okay, Bo, what are your actual book and stuff related questions, since we went so left on all of our conversations, which I love.
oh, I'm having so much.
No, you don't. You're fine. I gotta let Bo do some questions though, because I get in trouble for not letting her actually talk.
She never lets me talk. It's okay though. Is there a genre that you'd like to write but are afraid to write?
Ooh, I am currently experimenting with a horror story. I wrote, and when I was a kid, I wrote a lot, and I loved R.L. Stine. So I wrote a lot of books. I wouldn't say books, stories and startings and ideas and whatever that were horror. And so I want to kind of go back to my roots and try to write horror. And I'm trying to write it in first person, which requires a lot more interiority. And it's so scary. It is so am I doing it right? Am I getting this character to say what I want them to say? I recently had a workshop on the first 2 chapters of the book. I've written 5 chapters. But the reception was amazing. Apparently I did well. And it just blew my mind because I have been so scared about writing this book and experimenting with a new POV and experimenting with a new genre and doing something that I've, not done as a whole book before. So
That's exciting. I write horror. I love horror.
ooh.
Yeah. Horror, it's its own thing though, because I think, I love that Bo asked that question because she asked, authors, because there's a lot of authors who are very comfortable writing different genres, but it's interesting reading authors who've mainly written one kind of genre, writing another kind of genre. And I give the example of Jonathan Mayberry, who's a horror writer, who wrote a fantasy series. The first one is called Kagan the Damned. I really enjoyed it. The second one came out, but it is really graphic. Like that, like you can see the horror part of like, it is absolutely fantasy. It's in a fantasy world. There's swords, there's magic, it's really, but you can tell his roots are in horror. Like it's that kind of thing. And I think it's interesting because I think that it helps give people or stories a different sort of take on the genre. Like Jeff Strand, who's a friend of mine, he writes humorous horror, right? And he generally writes standalone novels, but they're funny. His books, they're horror. There's graphicness in it. But there's humor in it. And that's a whole thing, to be able to write humorous thing. And he wrote a novel and unfortunately published it under his name. And his audience was like, this is a good, but this is a romance book. Like, and he did it well, but you can see the elements to what he normally writes in that thing. So I think it's very interesting. Are you writing a sci-fi horror?
No, I'm not writing a sci-fi horror, which is strange for me, not writing sci-fi. I am literally writing something that someone said reminded them of a cross between Hill House and Flowers in the Attic.
Is there
just off of reading the first
and then imaginary ghosts?
Sorry, what?
That's an imaginary ghosts.
Yes, actually, I'm working with the idea of people imagining ghosts or ghosts being real, and trying to play with the idea of like madness.
I like it.
And the main character, the first person POV, is a 18-year-old trying to graduate high school. So it's kind of crossover adult.
Very cool.
I think that's cool. I want to read it already.
Yeah. No, what's really interesting is you bring up Hill House, and I think most people have not actually read or listened to The Haunting of Hill House, like the book that the original movie was Netflix television show was based on. Because there was a movie called The Haunting of Hill House, which was more similar to the book.
Oh, really?
I'm using quotations. Kinda.
Yeah.
But the book, like, I feel like they did the spirit of it. The book is very different than the movie.
I'm gonna have to read the book because
I would audiobook it.
Ooh, audiobook.
Yeah, I would audiobook The Haunting of Hill House. So a friend of mine decided that that's what we were going to do. We were going to read/listen to The Haunting of Hill House. And I did. And as somebody who had seen both of the movies at first, which also gives you a different perspective when you've seen the movies and the TV show. And the TV show, I think was utterly fucking brilliant. That show was terrifying. And I
Yeah, it was
loved
so
it
good.
because it wasn't terrifying because it was gross. Like I'm a huge fan of when there were some gross parts to it, but I love it when you do horror and it's not gore. I'm not a gore fan with horror, believe it or not.
Really?
I like it when it mentally fucks you up. Like a lot of my stories do have some gore in them, but most of them, if you read them, will mentally fuck you up. Like, like, because I think it's when you're pushed and you go, what would you do in that situation?
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes a huge difference. Like, What Lies Beneath was another really good horror movie to me.
Ooh, that's a good movie.
I like it. Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. And that one it's suspenseful and you're waiting and it doesn't have just a ton of jump scares. And it, and it has something that when you weave through it, I just think is so brilliant in how it gets you there. And I felt like the TV show did that. So be prepared though, because The Haunting of Hill House is much more about madness. And you leave the book going, was this real or not?
Oh, I really want to read that book. Right now I just finished I have it in front of me. Louise Erdrich's The Sentence, as well as Noah Lemelson's The Lioness and the Rat Queen. Two completely different stories. Like one is horror, one is spec fic. And I like The Sentence. It was so wonderful to read out of my genre. Like for once, it was interesting. It was inspiring even, because I'm trying to write out of my normal genre. So
well, and one of the best things you can do is read a lot out of your normal genre by people who are writing in a similar way to what you want to write and how you want to communicate your story. I think it's one of the best things you can do is find not only the famous authors, but the not so famous authors that are writing and sort of breaking the genre rules, because you can break genre rules. And especially when it comes to horror, I think horror, suspense, thriller,
my friend Lindsay Merbaum, she wrote The Gold Persimmon. She does these classes on horror tropes like monsters and witches and ghosts that really challenge your idea of those tropes and makes you kind of widen your view about what a ghost is, what a monster is. And I'm actually really excited because I get to do the monsters class in July. And with that inspiration, we're reading Frankenstein and a bunch of like side stuff. But I've read Frankenstein like 3 times now because I have a degree in creative writing and literature. And so that's just something that you read in college and in high school.
And there is another one that's very different than a lot of the movies portray that to be the story of Frankenstein. Because people think it's the monster all the time. Oh, look, that's Frankenstein. I'm like, oh, you still have not read the books. Like,
there is one that I cannot remember what it is that was really close to the book. And I wish I could remember what it is. It's probably in my college notes, the movie that I'm thinking about, but I haven't dug those out yet.
Well, eventually you'll have to share with your fans when you dig them out what this is.
Oh, I know, right? But it was really close to the book. The monster spoke like he does in the book, right? And he spoke to the little girl. And made friends with the little girl. And that's the big scene that I always remember in that movie, is when he kills the little girl that he befriended.
Yeah.
And that scene in particular is not portrayed as, a thing in most of the Frankenstein movies.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I'm really excited because it brings some of my college research back, and I can't wait to read what like secondary readings she has for it. There's another book, and I wish I remembered the author's name offhand, but it's a queer retelling of Frankenstein.
Mhm.
And I bet you I can find that in a second. I have to start Discord to do that though. So it's going to
Ooh,
take me a
Discord pinging, incoming Discord pinging.
yeah. I try to close it during like all of these things.
As
So
one should, because incoming Discord and Facebook pings can happen.
yeah.
Is it Unwieldy Creatures?
Yes. What's the author's name?
Um, Addie Brooke Sigh.
Yeah, that's it. So like Monsters 2.0, we'll read that. But it's a great retelling, and I wish I could. Oh, look at sound Discord. Oh my goodness, Discord is beeping. I'm turning Discord off.
Warned you. I actually got yelled at on my other podcast, Eerie Travels, because apparently Discord was going off. That was me. And people are like, I kept thinking it was my Discord. And I'm like, okay, note to self, turn Discord off, because apparently, ooh, Discord.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't turn Discord off either. Uh-oh. Quit. Okay.
We'll get yelled at, Bo. Got to turn
Oh, no.
Discord off. So, but okay. Oh my gosh, we have to wrap soon. Bo, do you have a final question before we wrap?
Sure. What is the first line in your book? The first
Which
sentence.
one?
The first one. That one. Yeah.
First book?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know it from memory anymore. Nyx hovered near the closed door to the command deck of the Thanatos.
And
like
so it begins.
And so it begins.
She
Okay.
hovered. She
AJ,
hovered.
shameless self-promotion time. Where do people find you in your books?
Well, you can find me on Amazon. Look up Erebus Dawning, and you'll find my book. It's the purple cover, not the Christopher Paolini book, which is just Erebus. And and you can find me at ajsuper.com. I managed to find my name as a .com. It was amazing.
That is really awesome.
And you can find me on Twitter at allbrevityWit, because I'm a big Hamlet fan. So, very soulful kind of name.
Very cool.
Somebody told me that once, that it was a very soulful because all brevity is the soul of wit, correct? And you can find me on Instagram at Angela J Super, as well as TikTok at Angela J Super. And
very, very cool.
I do a newsletter. It's a co-op with other authors, and it's sword fights and spaceflights.substack.com.
Oh, I like it. And we will include all of your socials in the show notes so people can find you. Thank you so much for being on this podcast with us.
I've had so much fun. I was so nervous at the beginning, but this has been great.
I told you, it's like the most casual podcast you can do. It's like sitting around and just having drinks with friends.
And you know what? I consider you friends now.
We consider you friend too.
Aww.
So guys, and to all of our friends out there listening, thank you for listening. This has been Drinking with Authors. I've been your host, Erica Lance. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave comments, reviews. We'd love to hear everything, especially if you're at home drinking along with us. Do not drink and drive. My co-host today has been the amazing Bo Lake. Our guest has been AJ Super, and we will see you guys next time.